we go, everyone. Welcome, one and all, to the MIRTH Web Show. My name is David Batterina, and for the next hour, I will be your host through the mayhem and insanity of exploring all things creativity. The show exists to help you, the creator, connect with fans, friends, and peers by showcasing not just your work, but your brain, creative process, and personality. It also exists because I like to mess with people. So please like, subscribe, hit the bell. We stream Tuesdays and Thursdays, as well as some group shows on occasional Saturdays, and would love to have you as a guest, by the way. Just go to mirthquake.show if you're interested. Over the next hour, expect some deep conversation, lighthearted fun, and prying open the creative brain of my very special guest, Mr. Nathan, the Amethyst Dragon. I love them, first of all. And hi, Nathan. How are you?
Greetings. Doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. I'm really excited for tonight because I, spoke for just a couple of seconds before, but D&D is like a big thing for me. And I mean, honestly, like all tabletop role playing, I'm a Gen X guy. I grew up with it. It's just the kind, it's like, it's homey for me. And I haven't played in ages for any of them. So I'm really curious to do a dive into that. But before I begin, let's do some this or that. Get people to know you real quick, right?
Sure.
With the first question, we're going to go for about a minute or so. And the first question I'm going to ask you is what I ask everybody. Would you rather be in a homemade hot air balloon or a janky submarine?
I'm thinking the balloon.
Most people go balloon on it. All right. Let's go superheroes or supervillains?
Heroes.
Heroes. Zombie apocalypse or robot overlords?
Robot overlords.
It's a brave choice. Yep. Let's see. Flying cars or underwater city?
Underwater city.
It's pretty compelling. Yep. Barbecue or ranch?
Barbecue.
Barbecue. Yeah, that's the right answer. Right. Ghosts or aliens?
Aliens.
Aliens. Super genius or super strength?
Super genius.
Super genius. Let's see. Magic or technology?
Magic.
I knew you were going to say that. Elvis or Beatles?
Sorry, I missed that last one.
Elvis or the Beatles?
Elvis.
Elvis. All right. And last one, pineapple pizza or no pizza at all?
Pineapple pizza.
Pineapple pizza. Look, it's still pizza, right? Yeah. I think that's what people need to understand. Like, it's still good. It's still pizza. No, that's good. I don't get the whole homemade hot air balloon thing, but like you guys do you. I just feel like there's a lot that I don't want to see the ground coming at me for like a while. That's all.
I just think if something goes wrong, you have a better chance of surviving a fall from a great height than being crushed by the weight of the ocean.
It's a valid point. It's a valid point. I mean, like, I'm assuming the janky submarine isn't just like 20 feet under. Like, that would be just really terrible, so there's that. Logan's here. Philip's here. Philip is casting fireball already. So that's good. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out. And so what I want to do to start off, we did that, is just give you the floor, right? And 30 seconds or so, whatever, and just talk about what you do, what you work on, and how you're creative. And let's get people get to know you, right? So all yours.
Sure. Well, my name is Nathan. Though for more than 28 years now online, I've used the name of the Amethyst Dragon. That came about from the early internet days, and it just kind of stuck. I've been a Dungeons and Dragons player and DM and game content maker for well over 3 decades. Started in late middle school. A buddy of mine introduced me to the game, and it stuck. So now I put stuff online, and I have a Patreon people can go to. I have hundreds of things people can download for free. And I've recently written a book that's almost 600 pages long for DMs and players. It's called The Amethyst Dragon's Hoard of Everything. That just recently kickstarted successfully. I'm finishing up. I've got some illustrations to do for one more chapter, and then I'll be able to send it off to the print company and get it into people's hands.
Epic.
But yeah, I've made, last count, more than 2,100 different things for the game.
Oh my goodness gracious. All right. So like, that's a lot to dig into. I'm just really curious. I don't even know where to start. Like, so what type, when you say content for the game, I guess, give me a general idea of what does that entail?
Oh, sure. Magic items, spells, monsters, NPCs, locations, subclasses, poison and diseases, other points of interest, background, species, and ancestries, which are races and sub races, other equipment,
So
just general plot ideas.
stuff and plots and scenes, locations, like that kind of thing too. Like,
Yeah, like something of everything.
okay, so give me an idea. Like, when I was playing D&D,
Mhm.
it was I just for show and tell because I had to. This is what I'm used to, right?
First edition.
Yeah, classic. And some second edition I think is mostly where I'd played.
Mhm.
I still have the Dungeon Master's Guide with the red guy and the fire, yeah, all that stuff. But I remember like some of the modules and things like Greyhawk and stuff like that. So you would put together pieces like that for the game essentially?
I don't really do like campaign settings like that.
Okay. Yeah.
I do have a setting that I've been using uh, since I was a teenager.
Mm.
Because I was a poor teenager. I did not have money to spend on like Greyhawk books or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I made up my own world. And then over the years, even though I have more money now as an adult, I have a lot more fun running players in that world that I made
Mm.
up because I can add to it, I can change it, I can remove things, I can do anything I want with it because it's mine. There's no such thing as, canon lore that I have to worry about,
Right.
except within the same campaign. But once a campaign is over, I can change something.
Right. So for you, it's like this is world building overdrive.
Oh yeah, and well, for like the setting, I just add what I need when I need it.
Mhm.
If I didn't ever have a need for it, I generally don't have it in the world
Yeah, of course.
until I think of a use for it. And I'm like, oh, where am I going to put that? Or I could really use something here. What's it going to be?
Right.
Um, but that is in addition to all the stuff like the list of content. And if people want an address, amethyst-dragon.com, and you can see a list, an organized list of everything that I have.
Oh goodness.
Most of it is available, like almost 700 free ones, stuff like that. Some of the stuff is only in my book, but I asked my Patreon patrons, and they're like, "Yeah, we want to see what to expect."
Right.
So that stuff's in the list too. But yeah, if anybody takes a look at that list and says, "I have a question about that," you can throw it into the chat here, and like, what inspired that?
Right, for sure. For sure. We already have Logan smiting the door. And all that. There's gonna be much smiting in the chat. So let me get to some creativity stuff because I'm
Mhm.
really curious about how you work because this is very different than who I'm used to chatting with in terms of just like I write short stories, I write books. Because you are specifically creating this kind of content and really, like you said, for other people, like in their
Mhm.
campaigns and things like that, also for your own enjoyment, obviously. Otherwise you wouldn't be
Oh,
doing this.
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everybody, which is when I say creative process, for you, what does that mean?
For me, it is just having a word or a combination of words or something in sight or something that piqued my interest recently. And I go, how can I make something like that into something for the game?
Hmm.
And my brain is just, after all these years, just wired for D&D. And I can take
Yeah.
basically anything and turn it into something functional in the game.
Right.
Like game mechanics or like story lines that you could easily adapt. So that's like some of my plot hooks are just like the start of stories, but it's ideas, it's something to build from. Other things I can take, like a potato, and turn it into a magic item that any DM can drop into their game.
Right. Gotcha. The magic potato.
I have one
It's good. I like it.
because potatoes have eyes, and this
Right.
one keeps a magic watch for you while you're sleeping.
Oh,
It casts the alarm spell, is what it does.
that's good. You have an alarm potato.
Mhm.
No, I think that's look, as a giant potato fan, I approve for sure. So for you, it's just these things that you'll think of and like, hey, I can use that, I can leverage that, I can add that to the hoard, so to speak,
Oh
um,
yeah.
of all things.
Sometimes I have to think a little bit longer. How am I going to use this? How do I get this to work?
Right.
This is a you know anti-disestablishmentarianism. I'm not doing that one again. I've done it.
Right.
Along with two other words, I combined 3 words and made a plot hook with it.
Nice.
I'm not doing that one again.
So well, let me ask, let's roll back just a little bit. How often are you actually playing?
I run a weekly game on Wednesday
Okay.
nights. So tomorrow night
Nice.
is the next one. I have run as many as 2 a week during the pandemic, but that other one kind of fell apart because of scheduling.
Right.
But my Wednesday night one has been going for 4 years now
Oh my goodness.
with the same group, same campaign, same characters.
Oh wow.
I mean, there was one death early on, but they actually
kind of
recently used
character
a wish
level?
to bring that character back
Oh, nice. What kind of character
and send
levels
her
are we
home.
talking at this point?
What was that?
What kind of character levels are we talking at this point?
They are currently 13th level. They started at first. It's a relatively slow leveling game,
Yeah.
but the players knew that ahead of time. But it gives them time to use the abilities that they gain at each level, get used to them, use the treasures, use
Sure.
their magic items, accomplish goals, and not like vastly overpower everything quickly.
Well, it tends to suck a little bit of the fun out of it, honestly. It's like, just even in video games, like
It
fast leveling
depends. Yeah.
is sort of like a, sure, like it's nice to just wander around and be able to lay waste to all of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something to be said for enjoying the journey, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
the level is not the real prize for this. It's what they accomplish along the way.
right. And so I'm curious because you've seen with a lot of D&D campaigns, I think it's almost like a running gag at this point that everything starts in a tavern. Um, so give me some alternate starts that you've thought of or that you've been involved with that are just non-tavern related.
Okay, because my current campaign started in a tavern. Um, partially because it was a cliche and run, seedy tavern.
Right.
Other starts to a campaign, well, there's shipwrecks are not uncommon.
Oh, okay.
Being stuck in prison is not uncommon. I ran a one shot where all the characters had been conscripted into this really shoddy army, and
Hmm.
then they're sent off on a mission at like 2nd level
Nice.
um, with no supervision, and they don't actually have to go accomplish their goal and go back. I mean,
Right.
they've been threatened with death if they don't, but nobody's following them to make sure they do it.
Yeah, like, is it for sure. Exactly. Yeah, see, here you go. Even Logan adding in. I love tavern starts. It's a trope, but it is, and you're not wrong. It is definitely a classic. Um, let's see. I'm just kind of curious, Philip. 4 years, good lord, never managed to get a bunch of players to show up on the regular for sessions for longer than a few months. Hats off, sir. Hats off, indeed.
Oh,
Um,
thanks. My secret to that one is I set the schedule when I started the game, and it's going to be the same time every week, same day of the week. And then we do play weekly, which is a lot of sessions. But
sure.
if something comes up, um, and we play if at least half the group is there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
If half the group, if more than half the group can make it, we play.
Right.
I started with 5 players, so if 2 were gone, we could still play, unless the DM is the person that's gone.
Of course.
But just consistency, and it's online. It's Roll20, so that makes it easier for people, even if they're sick or something. And they're like, I feel like relaxing with the D&D game.
Yeah, for sure.
But
How long? Typically, like, how long's one of your Wednesday sessions?
about 4 hours.
Oh, goodness gracious! Wow, wow. Yeah, I mean, look, that's pretty awesome. I mean, you're putting in the work. I had heard I saw a little special about some guy who was in Canada that was like running the same campaign for like 28 years or something.
Mhm.
And just like, I mean, it's just like mind blowing. And it honestly, it's just really cool to see because we've seen there's so many tabletop games that have come out and like have come in and then left. I remember just as a kid, like I had Boot Hill, which was like the Western like role playing. Car Wars was another one. Vampire the Masquerade took up a bit of time for me too. I liked that system and everything. But like D&D's always been the staple. And then we had like just even the movie that came out a couple of years ago. Actually, what did you think of it?
Loved it. As a DM and a player, perfect.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
I know some people were expecting like Lord of the Rings, serious, but I've never been in a D&D game that wasn't fun.
Of course. No, I loved it too. I thought it was like just a great romp and a wild ride when he was singing and his face was like melting. Like just that, like I still like I laugh over it.
The Bad Illusion, the Fat Dragon, it was
The
all
Dragon was fantastic. Yeah.
great.
No, they're talking about another one. I really hope they do it.
Oh, me too.
Logan's curious. What is the longest session that you've run?
In college, I did an all-nighter once. We started at probably 6:30 at night and went until like 6 in the morning.
Mm.
We were all dead on our feet or in the chairs by the time it finished. But that's the longest one I've done.
Right.
Longest single session.
So in terms of creativity and creating these things and like all of this stuff that you put in the world and all these sorts of things, I'll ask you, is there a time where you're most creative during the day? Is this like wake up and I'm thinking about it? Is it nighttime where you're like, these ideas are happening, or is it just pretty much all the time and you just
It can be pretty much all the time. I could sit down and say, I'm going to make something.
Right.
Which I'm going to be doing later tonight because it's Tuesday and I make a treasure and I haven't done it yet today. But other times I could be washing dishes after dinner and I'll have an idea.
Yeah.
That's where one of the monsters came from.
Nice.
I was cleaning up Thanksgiving leftovers and there's all these bones there. I'm like, what if there was like a ghost turkey? And it haunts the people that ate it.
I think I've had
made
that Thanksgiving actually. Yeah. No, that's good. I like it.
But yeah, any time of day.
Right.
Pretty much any circumstances. I might get an idea or I may purposely sit down to create something.
When you do that, what does it look like? Is it just opening up a Word document? Like what is that process for you?
I open up Notepad.
Yep.
And depends on if I have an idea already, I can use that. I actually keep a list of ideas in OneNote that I've kept for years. And I've probably got, if I made something every day, a year's worth of content in that ideas list.
Right.
So if I don't have an idea and I'm searching for an idea and I just can't think of anything, I go to the list.
Yeah.
Other times I'll sit down and I'll look around and go, I'm going to use that as a basis for something.
Right.
Or like I had an empty space in my book that I'm like, I don't want to take up 3/4 of a page with an illustration. So I'm just going to make up a new monster. So I went to Google words that start with HE.
Right.
Because it was like between HA and HI. And I'm like,
okay. Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'll use that word and I'll make up a monster.
Right.
So
heliotrope. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I mean, gobble gobble MFR, yeah, for sure. That is really something. I'll be thinking about that this Thanksgiving, so I appreciate it. So the creation part of it can happen pretty much any time for you. What about when you're writing and like you're putting down something that's longer? It's not just like quick idea stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you have a specific time you like to sit down and work on things, or is it just like when you can fit that in? Because obviously life is going on.
Yeah. When I have, I'd say when I know I have at least an hour, if it's going to be something longer. That way I can write it, I can reread it, I can run a spell check on it.
Right.
I can go work on like a stat block or something. I can look back at it. I can find the mistakes I just made.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I'll like copy it and paste it into, I use Affinity Publisher for formatting things. So I
Okay.
can copy and paste it into that. Or if it's just like a magic item, I use HTML for
See?
making web pages for formatting simple stuff like spells and magic items.
Yeah, that's good.
Shot those. My username comes from when I made my first website in January of 1996
Okay.
on a place called GeoCities.
Oh, I remember GeoCities. I was on it. Yep.
Yeah, I taught myself how to code web pages. That was before they had editors that you could like, what you see is what you get.
We're talking pre-MySpace. We're talking, yeah,
Oh,
like, yeah, 14.4 modem kind of, right?
So like my whole website, if you look at it, I wrote that in Notepad.
No kidding.
That's
Nice.
all raw code.
Yeah, that's the old school way. Absolutely. I kind of miss those days, to be honest, because now it's like, oh yeah, you just move this block here, and then you look at the code, and it's like 3 trillion lines of code just to have like a block. There was times were so much simpler back then. Really,
they were, and more difficult too. And because I mean, we had to put up with like flashing backgrounds and scrolling.
Oh, MIDI music. Yeah, like in the lane because it's under construction. All that stuff.
Yeah, my first site was bad.
I say bring it back. I want that and MySpace and all those good things and all this other social media nonsense.
But yeah, it's a process of writing longer stuff is I do like to give myself a little more time, but sure. I'm not like, I mean, there's got to be about 450,000 words in my book. But it wasn't me sitting down and writing stories and like drawing out plots and having to like get really, really descriptive with characters, because a lot of it is, here's a description for a monster. Here's a description for an NPC. Here's a description for a magic item. Here's the effects of one spell. So it's like bit by bit by bit. Most of them aren't like even short story length things. It's all put together.
Yep. So I guess there's another element to this too, in terms of, especially if you're like creating monsters or like characters and things like that, is working out stats, like statistics and all of that kind of thing. So that's, I mean, it's still a creative endeavor, but you're talking about like some math and logic going into all of this. So like, how does that impact what you do? Or is there play testing involved? Like how do you work around that? Because you do have to fit it within a certain structure, obviously.
Yeah. Well, the switch to 5th edition helped a lot. You can standardize a lot more things with it and like pump out the content. I mean, 3rd edition was okay too. 2nd edition was when I actually started making stuff. And I have a folder. I don't know where it went, but my parents had saved a folder of mine, and I rediscovered it a couple of years ago with the stuff I'd made up in high school, and it was
nice.
It was fun, but there was nothing resembling game balance.
Right.
Yeah, I was a teenager.
I get it.
But I've actually mined some of that to turn it into 5th edition stuff, more balanced, more useful for the games. But as far as like figuring out stats, it's part of it is I have this idea, what do I want it to be able to do? Okay, now how strong is that compared to existing things?
Okay, yep, makes sense.
So I try to balance it against existing things. Playtesting doesn't happen. Honestly, I don't have time to playtest all the things that I make.
For sure.
Some of the stuff gets used. Like I have players using some of my subclasses and some of my sub races and magic items and stuff in my live game. So I guess technically that's playtesting.
Sure.
But in general, I write something up and I make it, I format it, and I put it out there. Yeah. Because I'm making things at least twice a week. Right. 2 months out of the year, I make stuff every single day.
God bless anyone creating in second.
Yeah. So actually, starting November 1st, I'll be picking a theme for the month of November and making something based on that theme every single day.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. It's going to be clubs. So it'll be Clubvember is the name of the month.
Okay, nice.
But I've done like Mermaid was this year. I've done February. It was all Fae related stuff. Mermaid was all underwater stuff. I've done February.
Okay.
Which was 28 days of dairy related D&D content.
That's excellent. Some cows.
The first one was a celestial creature called a holy cow.
Oh, okay. And that makes perfect sense. I like it.
It's this creature that's sent by the gods to like worthy farmers or whatever to help them out. It makes animals easier to handle, makes them healthier, the surrounding ones. And if you get into combat with it, it can't attack.
Oh.
It will just stand there. But if you hit it and you hurt it, its ability is to look at you and make you feel bad about what you just did.
Guilt.
It makes it so you can't attack anything else like your next turn.
Right. You're in shambles. I like it. That's good. So you've got stuff going. So you're like regularly just creating, pumping out stuff from one month to the next, or constantly in all of that. Do you ever feel like there's a creative downtime for you, like where it's not happening or whatever? And how do you handle that?
I think when I had COVID, I probably took a week off.
Yeah.
But I'm in my house anyway.
Right. Yeah, I know.
But in general, no, unless something drags me away, distracts me, like a gaming convention, even though I'm probably making D&D stuff at the convention.
Right.
Come to think of it. But or even like, no, let's take a family trip back to Arizona to visit my in-laws, and I've got paper and pencil with me, and I'll make stuff up, or I'll do illustrations. I took up illustrating a few years ago.
Oh, nice.
Because I didn't want to use anybody else's art that I just found online for my D&D stuff. But I still wanted to have pictures for some of it because pictures attract people's attention.
For sure.
And now it's kind of paying off because I'm doing a whole bunch of illustrations for this book.
Nice.
So
you set it up so you're creating. Yeah.
And it's just pencil and paper. I don't do paint. I don't do colors. I don't do inks, and I don't really draw on the computer. I use GIMP a little bit to sharpen up some stuff, but other than that, it's number 2 pencils on printer paper.
There's nothing wrong with you. Number 2 pencils and notepad, like so you are my spirit animal, sir. So let me ask you this: what about music while creating, while writing, while illustrating, or even while playing in the campaign or anything like that? How does it fit in?
I wish I was coordinated enough to do it during my game sessions for my players, because background music, but you got to have it like low enough so it's not interrupting the talking, but loud enough so you can hear it, so it's not, too quiet and it's just gonna be annoying anyway, like that song on the radio you can't quite hear.
Yes.
You don't want to do that. So I don't do it during my games, but I listen to music a lot when I'm creating stuff for D&D. Spotify is my friend.
What's a typical listen for you? What genre? Like where do you go?
The only things I don't really listen to are like country.
Yep.
And like more, I guess you'd call like the gangster rap, but like other rap I'll listen to.
Sure.
But other than that, it's very eclectic. Weird Al Yankovic.
Nice.
Probably one of the greatest musicians of all time.
Clearly.
Pop, rock, electro swing is surprisingly interesting.
It's great. Yeah. No, it's
orchestra
good
stuff,
rhythmic and all that.
industrial metal.
Sure.
I'm just all over the place.
Right. You go from like Weird Al to Rammstein. Like, is it? You might. Yeah. Why not?
They're usually not on the same playlist. It just depends on the mood, but
right.
They're both on my lists.
See, I feel like if they really just need to let Weird Al do a Super Bowl halftime show, and I guarantee it would
get me to watch the Super Bowl halftime show
ever, because everybody'd be like, "What is this going to actually look like?" Instead of just throwing up some Pop-Tart again.
I have been to one of his concerts once, second row.
How was it?
Best concert of my life.
I'm sure. I'm sure. There's nothing about that guy that's not entertaining, and I think it's hilarious that he started playing accordion because it was like a door-to-door accordion salesman that like
Yeah.
hit up his parents for, and they're like, sure, because it
Mhm.
was cheaper than like getting a piano or something. I'm like, this is just everything about him is fascinating, and plus UHF is one of my favorite movies ever. So so we definitely have that one. What about what about anything? Do you face criticism on anything? Do you get people that push back on stuff that you create or stuff that you've done? Or
I did when I used to do a lot more posting on Reddit.
go figure. Yeah.
Yeah, when I started in on 5th edition, so like 2017 is about when I started that.
Right.
I'd been 3rd edition up until then because of an online game. And I was just starting out, so of course there's feedback, which is why you post online, is to get feedback and help you improve with this stuff. If you're only doing it for the upvotes,
Yeah.
really, why? I do it to show off what I've made, and occasionally I'll get somebody say, "Hey, I don't think that's quite right." And I'll look at it and I might go, "Well, no, I think I'm right," or I might look at it and go, I think you're right.
You have a point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or somebody corrects you on something, like that ghost turkey that I was talking about.
Right.
I use a website called indifferentlanguages.com.
Okay.
So when I'm naming something, I'll go, well, I don't want to just give it an English name. Let's
For
go
sure.
for something more interesting. Let's look up, so I looked up, ghost in another language. I think I used Luxembourgish for that one.
Oh, nice.
So ghost was like Draugr. So that was like the second part of it.
Right.
And then I looked up turkey, and I'm like, okay, this sounds cool. And I put it on, actually, I think I put that one on Facebook first.
Right.
And somebody said, you're close, but that's the country turkey. If you want the bird turkey, it's this word. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something I wouldn't have caught.
Crowdsourced for the win. Yep.
So you can use online feedback to improve things. That's one of the greatest things. And the D&D, and I'm sure Pathfinder and other role-playing games content community, so helpful. You'll get a few people who are like jerks, but the vast majority like what you do, or say, hey, this is a good start, here's how it could be improved. And it is such a great community.
Right.
And I try to do the same things. When I have time to get on Reddit or Facebook or whatever and see the things people's made, unless it's got AI art, and then I just go, yeah, I'm not going to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of actual artists doing art, and even if you can't afford to commission an artist, there's so much stuff that's in the public domain that you can use.
Sure.
There's you can buy stock art really, really, really cheap. Or you know what? I love stuff with totally amateur sketches.
Right. Sure.
And like one of the most popular things I've seen, this guy does like, his own colored pencil work in a lined notebook. And it's just amazing for the creativity.
Yeah.
It is definitely not a practiced artist, but just the fact that that person took the time to just draw what was in their head.
Right, for sure.
And then make up and to go along with their D&D thing. So the feedback is phenomenal online.
Yeah. Reddit is definitely an adventurous place to go to get feedback, for sure. But I imagine just like tons of communities and everything else. And you've got, I mean, do you know and have peers that do the similar thing that you do in terms of creating this kind of content?
Personally, no, but online, yeah, there's lots of people and names I recognize and names I don't recognize, which are actually the best.
Right.
I see a lot of the same names over and over and over. So when I see a name I don't recognize and they have something interesting, I'm like, I'm going to check this out.
Nice. Do you do any conventions or anything like that?
As a creator, one. I have a local convention that's about like a 15-minute drive away.
nice.
And I do a lot of volunteering and stuff for that. But I do like a little workshop type thing where we talk about homebrew items, and
Right.
because that's the name they have now. I don't know if that started in 4th edition or 5th edition, but the stuff I've been doing all along is now called homebrew.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I think they borrowed the term from beer makers, but
For sure.
it's stuff that's not made by Wizards of the Coast
Right.
or made by an established publishing company like Kobold Press.
Right.
Or is it Kobold Press? Hit Point Press, Mage Hand Press. I think it's Kobold Press. There's a lot of press ones.
Right. Right. I only ask because I've been to a few different writing oriented like author conventions, but at every single one that I've been to, first of all, Steve Jackson is there. And he's running things, and he's just like hanging out and that kind of stuff. And there's always D&D tables and like all this kind of stuff. I'm like, my gosh, like there's so much crossover between fiction writing and gaming as communities.
Oh yeah, think of people who write a lot. Chances are they're a bit nerdy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, go figure. Yeah. Weird. I didn't expect that. I expected a bunch of introverted people creating their own worlds to be outgoing.
I've been to conventions with gaming too. Used to go to a pop culture one when I lived in Arizona that had in a neighboring hotel a lobby full of people doing gaming, and that's where I spent 90% of my time. Or I've been to Gen Con, which is all gaming.
Right.
70,000 people.
Oh my god, no, that's too much. Yeah.
This one's like 800 people, the local one. But
there you go. No, that's manageable. Yeah, Homebrew's been around a long time. 3.5 edition times 3.5 edition called it Homebrew as well.
Oh, there we go. I didn't actually do 3.5 edition. I skipped it.
I'm curious, just like on the editions, because I don't understand. Right. Like I said, I played when it was this. And so what was the major like evolution and change in the game, and did that impact you a great deal as you were creating for it? And do you have like a favorite edition, I guess, or one that's like you find to be the best or most fun?
Oh sure. Well, I started out in 1st edition. A buddy of mine was given some dice and some books. We didn't know what we were doing. He was the DM. I was the only player. It was a disaster, but it was fun.
Started in the tavern,
and I was hooked because swords and magic and dragons.
Absolutely.
And then when I went to buy my own books, 2nd edition was out, so that was the books that were available.
Okay.
So I switched to that, although it wasn't a huge switch to go from 1st to 2nd. But then Wizards of the Coast bought the company that originally ran D&D, TSR.
Right.
Evidently, TSR was really bad with money. Wizards of the Coast swooped in, picked them up, and they came out with a 3rd edition. And I bought the book like right when it came out, the Player's Handbook. It sat on a shelf for a year.
Oh,
because I was like, I've made all this stuff for 2nd edition. I'm not going to want to change all my stuff over. One night I sat down like a year later. I read through that book. I went, I'm changing all my stuff.
Nice. Yep.
Updated all my stuff for 3rd edition. I ran that in person for a long time. Neverwinter Nights came out.
Right.
In 2002, I started playing that and creating stuff for that game. I taught myself how to code for that game and make 3D models and do all the stuff for that. Did that for years and years and years until I burned out on it because I was making too much stuff for it with little interaction. And the computer that I'd been running it on for 11 years in my basement died.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I didn't have enough players for me to go, I'm not going to fix it and rebuild it. And I lost a lot of the players' data. And then I'm like, I'm going to go back to in-person D&D.
Right.
By that time, 5th edition was out.
Oh.
So Neverwinter Nights used 3rd edition.
Gotcha.
And so I just kept using that. And I didn't see a need to buy the 3.5 books.
Sure.
When I had the original books, 5th edition was out when my computer stuff died. And it had been out for 2 or 3 years by that point. And I was like, okay. I read through the Player's Handbook of that one. I'm like, I'm changing all my stuff again. Because each time between second and third, it was a huge streamlining and simplification of things.
Oh, okay.
I'm
That
sure
when they
you're
lost
familiar with
you hit
THACO and
armor
having to
class
like
0,
subtract
yeah.
numbers to add numbers to the
Oh,
dice
yeah.
and stuff,
Oh,
and having to look all this stuff up on tables.
No, I hated it. Yeah.
Third edition streamlined stuff so nicely.
Right.
Well, I never looked at fourth edition because it started and stopped being published when I wasn't playing tabletop D&D.
Mm.
So fifth edition was the thing that was out. So I looked at that. I read through that. I'm like, I'm updating all my stuff. It streamlines things even more and simplifies things even more. And not to say that D&D is just like this super simple game.
Sure.
But for the way I want to play it and the way I want to run it, fifth edition is my favorite.
It is.
Yeah, after all these years, it doesn't have as many options as there were piled on for third edition and 3.5 and Pathfinder, but Pathfinder is basically 3.5 D&D. The first edition was anyway. But I'm an improv DM. I improvise, I'd say at least 90% of every one of my game sessions every week.
Right. Okay. Yep.
And it's a fifth edition is a system that I can do that. And I can run things on the fly. I can make up monsters on the fly, give them like throw some stats on a piece of paper. And well, I use, roll 20 now. So throw some stats on the screen. It'll roll the dice for me. But I can make stuff up as I go along. Right. Fifth works really well for that. You don't have quite as much of the number crunch.
Right. Yes, that made teenage me want to dream. I was like, I was terrible at math, and this is just more math. I was like, oh man, yeah, I get that, and it's nice. I mean, at least they've recognized and updated the game to a point where it's like just like a smoother run game, because really, there's so much storytelling involved. And there's all of that scene setting, and you want your characters, like you want the players to have a great time, just like you said. So the more streamlined you can make it, so you're not just sitting there looking up tables and charts and all that other stuff to just give them the good experience.
Yeah. And I've been doing this long enough that I can kind of judge, is this going to be too strong? Maybe.
Right.
We'll see if they survive it. But I have very imaginative players, which is awesome. They were all basically newbies when they started 4 years ago. So they have a lot of imagination. They're not already set with what's going to work best, what's optimal.
Right.
And they're not so worried about making mistakes.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, no, that is excellent. Have you do you feel like you have enough time to create these things and to keep doing this, or do you wish you had more?
I think I have enough time because I am a parent.
Yep.
I have offspring. I have pets. I have a house.
Yeah.
And now I've got a book to finish.
Right.
But if I just sat down and looked up how many minutes I use for creating D&D stuff every day,
yeah,
it varies widely from like 10, 15 minutes to 5 hours.
Right.
It just depends on the day and what I'm doing, how invested I am in a particular thing. Sometimes I have an idea that I have to get done and get out because it's just so fun.
Yeah. You need to get it, eject it from the brain, get it down, document it, and
or other times I have Patreon patrons that can commission, a thing every month. They just have to ask for it.
Right.
So I've made like subclasses and stuff for them.
Right.
And some of those, they have really neat ideas. I'm like, I'll take it and run with it and give you something.
Yeah. What was the process for you to start up a Patreon around all of this? How did you go about it? I'm curious.
Well, the first thing I did is I'm like, oh, what's this Patreon thing? My goal was to have some of my stuff for free and some of my stuff for patrons.
Right.
And Patreon lets me host everything there and have some of it for free and some of it just for patrons.
Yeah.
So I set up the account. I had like all my stuff like basically free online. I took it all down.
No.
And then I moved it over to Patreon and went, okay, this is free, this is free, this is free, this is free. No, I'm keeping this. This is something people might want to spend, $1 a month on. At the time, it was my lowest one was $1 a month. Now it's $5 a month because I've got over 2,000 things on there.
Yeah.
But I can still pick and choose what's free and what's not.
Sure.
And you can set your price levels and stuff. And then also when I did that, I stripped all the artwork out of everything I had done. Because I used to go online like DeviantArt and ArtStation and stuff and go, oh, that would be cool for this, and then find a cool piece of art and put it in my thing because people like the pretty pictures.
Oh, for sure.
And you get a lot more interaction online when you have the pretty pictures, which I think is part of why AI generated stuff has taken off, even though I really don't like the resulting art either. Just the little mistakes in it that aren't from a human. They're just mistakes because they're mistakes.
Yes.
And then you never see like brush strokes or anything in it.
Right. Yeah, it's smooth.
I didn't feel right possibly collecting money using other people's art that I didn't, license for that. And so I stripped all that out before I posted onto Patreon. And then I discovered, at least on my laptop at the time, Patreon was really slow to load things in.
Right.
Like the whole list of things, and you could scroll forever. So I started the website list that people can look at that I mentioned earlier, amethyst-dragon.com. And it links to every single individual thing so people can see everything at once.
Right.
So that's how I got started. And I don't have a huge following on Patreon.
Sure.
I think I get like $100 a month.
Right.
It's not a lot, but occasionally there'll be more, and people will pick a higher tier that includes things like getting a subclass.
Right. Well, that and the other thing is you're starting something and you're creating something and generating something that like inevitably it's going to be a slow roll to get people like in there and everything else. And so and kudos to you, because like I think a lot of people just look at it and they're like, no, I'm not worth anything. I couldn't possibly charge somebody $1 a month for something. And I think people do sell themselves short on it. And when you've had, you in particular have had all of this like experience and knowledge about the game, you're going to attract players that are just like, all right, like this guy knows what he's talking about. And that's pretty cool to be able to use that creatively. And even if it's just $100, like you're doing more than a lot of people would normally do with it, which is nice.
I think it's worth, $5 a month if you get, 8 to 31 new things you can use for your game.
Right. And I always look at it from a standpoint, just as somebody, who here and there will support different, creative efforts. If somebody's creating cool stuff, even if I'm not going to use any of it, like I want to support that person in some way. It's the whole reason that I do this show, is to get people, I've invested my own time and money in the equipment to do so, and everything else, generating the clips and posting everywhere and all that kind of stuff, because I want people like you to be able to get out there and like say, hey, like I exist, these are the things that I do. I think it's important for us to support each other in that way, just as creatives.
Exposure is, don't pay artists, or don't offer to pay artists in exposure.
Never.
Don't.
No.
They can't live. They can't eat exposure. But in general, if you can't afford to pay an artist, but you like their stuff, share it online.
Yeah.
Put it on Twitter, Blue Sky. What's that? The Mastodon one is one I never got into. Instagram, Reddit, Facebook, TikTok.
Threads, if you're
share
it. Yeah.
If you like their stuff, but even if you can't afford to like support that way, a couple of seconds to hit the share button.
Right.
It's appreciated.
It makes a huge difference. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And a lot of us, particularly on X or Twitter, or Jitter, I don't know what to call it anymore.
I still call it Twitter.
Yeah, I do too.
If it ever gets bought, I bet the name will come back.
It might, yeah.
If it survives and gets bought by somebody else.
But even on there, it seems like, in a lot of cases, just as creatives, we're sort of shouting into the void. And it's hard to get traction, and then the same thing happens on YouTube, and it happens everywhere else, where you're just like, what is the all-seeing algorithm going to bestow upon me today? Like, have I earned its favor today? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I didn't call enough people names and it's not going to push my content out there. Like, I have no idea. But those things do, like, it does help. The engagement always helps. Like, so anytime somebody's posting something or anything like that, it's just a like, just a quick retweet, just a like, hey, this was cool, or whatever else.
Oh yeah, that feedback,
Yeah.
love that stuff. Somebody looked at it,
Right. I know.
and they have thoughts on it, and they're sharing.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if they don't like it.
Like, when you get a review, like, it's like, oh my gosh, like somebody read my work and took the time to go on Amazon and say this was cool. Like,
Yeah.
that's really the gold. The goal is for artists to be able to make the art as much as possible, and getting paid helps it happen. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to next spring when I hear about people, accidentally breaking a gaming table or something by dropping my book on it.
Very nice.
I had to buy a whole new gaming table because of this thing. You're welcome.
So let me ask you this one. I want to play some Pitch Storm with you, because as a DM who thinks on the fly, I think we can have some fun with it. So if there's anything you wish you could change about how you work creatively, would you?
No.
You're good.
For me.
Yeah. It's nice to know your creative process. I think that's like one of the most important things. And it's something that people really struggle with because they get very down on themselves. Where it's like, I didn't write today, I'm the worst, or I didn't, but it's like, look, there's life is long. You have time. Like, and some things, yesterday for me, I must have run back and forth to the town office to try and get my car registered like 5 times because I keep forgetting documentation. I have to sign something else. They have to come here and look at the VIN on my car, like just all these different things. And like, I would much rather have just sat here and done something, just like entertain myself by writing something stupid. But life gets in the way. And just like you said, if there's kids, there's a job, there's like, there's a house, there's things, and so like, it's not always going to be easy, and we get really hard on ourselves. But kudos to you for creating and enjoying the way you create, and being like, you're totally in your pocket. That's pretty epic.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody that struggles with that kind of thing, where they're having a hard time?
If you got a different spot in your house or your apartment, or a different chair in your dorm room,
shake it up.
Make a change. Go outside if you can. If you get really, really, really frustrated, stop. Walk away for a while.
Yeah.
Do something else, possibly completely unrelated. Come back to it. Give your mind a break. It can get hard to do the same thing for hours and hours and hours and days upon days upon days. And so, switch it up.
Yeah. There's no use in being angry at your own creative works.
Yeah. I burned sticks last night. I have a brush pile, so I burned some sticks, and then we made s'mores.
Oh, nice. It looks more looks everything.
And that was a break from drawing stuff. I've been, illustrating a lot of stuff to get this book finished.
Right.
But that was a mental break for me to just, and I've always liked burning stuff since I was a kid.
Yeah, I had a pile of GI Joes that had firecrackers stuffed in them from time to time.
Yeah, see, for me those cost too much money, but I blew up paper airplanes with ball rockets.
There you go.
Let's make this thing fly fast. Confetti.
That's right. Well, let's have some fun and pry open your brain and see what comes out. Lay it bare for everybody. So let me give this one a quick intro, and then we're gonna do a little bit of Pitch Storm and have some good times. Let's see. Here we go. Next up, everyone, we're going to play some Pitch Storm. This little exercise provides us a live, real-time look into our guest's creative brain. This is a fully random event, no hints, no notes, no heads up. This is all about creation in real time. Neurons firing at a randomized prompt to create something from nothing in this very moment. Guests are given a random character, random plot, and must pitch these two things as a story, detailed as their heart desires. Once 30 seconds is expired, there will be 2 random wrinkles thrown in, and you must re-pitch the story with random wrinkles included. And at the end, we'll rate it yes or no. It's going to be yes. I can already tell. Audience heckling permitted, nay welcome, nay mandated, as is chiming in with honest assessments of how our guest is faring. As a lifeline, Nathan, you can use 2 mulligans. So ask for a respin if you're not feeling it, and that's totally okay. The great distaste we don't want you to have for the game. We're supposed to have some fun. However, I just ask that you don't use 2 mulligans in a row, right? So you're gonna be stuck with it. You're gonna be stuck with stuff if that happens. So I'm gonna go ahead and bump up the giant wheel, the wheel of joy right here. And here's how I have it laid out. We've got characters A and characters B. There's no difference. There's not like one quality in one or the other. They're fully randomized lists. I just had to split them in half so the wheel actually worked. There's a lot. Same with plots and same with the notes or wrinkles. All told, there are over 4.5 billion combinations possible in this entire thing. So we've randomized it to a degree that we will never reach, which is great. So let me ask you to start. Characters A or characters B?
Let's go B.
B it is. All right. Let's spin and find your first character here. Your story will have
just so I can
a magical nanny for a wealthy family.
I'm just writing that down.
Yep.
For a wealthy family. I can't spell, but close enough.
Close enough. And plots A or plots B?
Let's go with A.
Okay. And let's see what your magical nanny is going to be up to. Hunts for elves in an enchanted forest.
Okay.
Not sure why the nanny would be elf hunting, but all right.
Writing this down, so sometimes I forget things that just went in, they go out. Totally magical nanny for a wealthy family hunts for elves in an enchanted forest. Well,
all right, so give me a pitch. 30 seconds.
So Mary Poppins works as a nanny for a wealthy family. She's got magic powers and stuff. Kids seem to like her, but recently she's had a bit of a mental break. And one of the elves, one of the house elves named Dobie, ruined a dish she was cooking with a little too much sugar. And she cracked a little bit. So now she hunts elves. They fled and they live in the enchanted forest, and now she's hunting them down. Okay, because better know elves than,
than elves.
Dopey elves.
That's good. All right, so let's go ahead and add a wrinkle to it from your magical elf hunting nanny. Notes A or notes B? Does it matter to you?
Let's go with B.
Let's go with B. All right, we can do A on the next one. And let's see what we got as a wrinkle. Great, but let's see this entire thing in a children's daycare center.
Easy enough. We've already got Mary Poppins. It just goes instead of the wealthy family's house next to the forest, it is a daycare center next to the forest, and it's a very, very expensive daycare because the wealthy only pay for the most expensive stuff. It's not necessarily the best; it's just the most expensive, so they think it's the best.
So how do the elves work into this is what I need to know.
See, the elves used to do the cleanup at the daycare center
okay.
because kids are messy. And while we have a magical nanny, even she got tired of cleaning stuff up. So, the various nannies, they ended up hiring elves. Well, it was Harry Potter type elves, and they're a little weird.
Nice. That's our 30. Let's add one more wrinkle. And then do the repitch and see where this all ends up. We'll bounce to notes A. And how are we going to resolve this story? What if all the characters are in high school?
Well, the little kids, freshmen. The nannies, seniors.
Right.
And yeah, so all of the characters definitely in high school, different ranges of maturity, different amounts of knowledge about what's socially acceptable at school, and you still got the wealthy ones that are total snobs and dicks.
I'm curious, if an elf is in high school, how old would that elf need to be, really? Proportionally.
15.
All right. Yeah, that works. That works.
I tend to see elves as, yeah, they're super long lived, but they're not kids until they're 100. They're,
Okay. Right.
give them like 20 years. They're physically adults, but there's a lot more mental maturing that needs to go on before they're recognized by the adults in their own society as adults.
Well, what we need to know, just to wrap this whole story up, is does she get the elves, or does she fail at getting the elves?
She gets all but one.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good.
And then that one will come back.
There's a villain origin story in there
after finishes college and gets a degree in evil.
That's good. Which college is that? That sounds like fun.
Evil Doctors College.
Teenage elves is a horrifying concept, says Logan. Yeah, of course. All right, let's clear it. Bravo, I say. Bravo. Very nicely done. Let's do one more. And that goes on for a while. All right. The sound came with the board. I don't have any control over that. Okay, so for our next one, are we going to go characters A or characters B?
Let's switch it up and go A this time.
We're going to do A. All right, here we go. Spin it, and we get Family of Cannibal Hillbillies. That's a good start. All right, plots A or plots B?
B.
B it is. Oh,
Two cannibals are eating a clown. One turns to the other and says, "Does this taste funny to you?"
Cannibal Hillbillies fighting to take down a dangerous cult. All right.
Okay, so
Cannibal Hillbillies. Yeah. All right, get 30 seconds and run with this one. You got something to work with here.
Okay, well, the Mackenzie clan has pretty much run out of food, so they've been expanding into new territory for hunting. Basically, small towns nearby. But it turns out the entire town is populated by a cult of strict vegans. Like, absolutely won't even look at a menu that has a burger on it.
Right.
It's almost a religion to them.
Okay, so our family of Cannibal Hillbillies have gone to the town where there is a vegan cult.
Yeah, unfortunately, a vegan diet is actually really healthy, and these people are strong and they're difficult to fight.
I like it. All right, let's go ahead and shake this up with some notes. Should we start with A or B? What do you think?
So let's go A this time.
Let's do A. All right, let's see if our Cannibal Hillbillies fighting to take down this dangerous vegan cult can do so. What if the main character also has to rescue a kidnapped princess? Well, let's throw that in there too.
Okay. Well, luckily, Appalachia is not. I'm picking on Appalachia just because the hillbilly stereotype. But you know what? Disney World is not that far. Florida's not that far, and the cult has actually kidnapped. I'm going to say half a dozen of the people playing princesses from Disney World, because well, they want the press, honestly, to recruit more people.
Okay, all right, we'll go with that, and then let's add our last wrinkle and bring this story home with some kind of an epic ending. Stolen Disney princesses. Yeah, forced to eat Beyond Burgers. What if the villain was actually Dracula?
Oh,
keep it or respin?
Let's keep it.
All right. Yep.
30 seconds. The mayor of the town is actually Dracula, and it turns out that people eating a healthier diet have tasty blood.
Oh, thanks.
And the Disney princesses were actually because frankly, all the cult members are starting to be a little related to each other, and he would like some brides that don't come from that town. Now, cannibal hillbillies, on the other hand, they could, eat the townspeople, but Dracula doesn't like them because he's eating his food. They're eating his food. So it's really just a competition between predators.
So let's bring it home. Who wins the day at the end?
In the end, I'm going to say Dracula. Just because, he's a vampire, he's immortal, he's really difficult to kill, and he's been living a long time. He's smart. So he's well educated as well as an accomplished hunter of people.
An astute Dracula. I like it. Bravo, sir. Bravo. We have made it through a couple rounds of Pitch Storm together. I like it. I like cannibal hillbillies in pretty much anything. So I'll tell you right now, I would watch a movie where vegan cult just kidnaps Disney princesses and is hunted down by hillbilly cannibals. Epic indeed. So I'm gonna wrap up with you, and this got weird fast.
You know what? As soon as the cannibal hillbillies rolled up, that was weird. That was the weird start for that one.
Well, yeah, you pretty much know it's not going to be normal with that kind of a beginning. So I want to wrap up with you, and just any other closing thoughts on just creativity or anything like that we had discussed. Advice that you would give to anybody that's just kind of forging their own path. I think in particular, finding your creative process because you found yours and you're really comfortable with it. So is there any advice that you would give somebody who's struggling a little bit?
Yeah, well, my creative process is for a game, so it's kind of inherently fun. For people who are doing writing or art, visual arts or music, it's all art in a way. Find what you enjoy. When it becomes work, take a break, change something up. For me, the key is enjoyment. I have fun doing this. I enjoy doing this, or I take it as a mental challenge sometimes. Like this story thing, I do kind of the same thing other times with just getting 3 random words from people and turning it into something for the game. Just try to enjoy what you're doing. And when it's a chore, take a break, come back to it, or go at it from a different angle. Get advice from other people. We can have all the ideas in the world, but if you're not going to be sharing them with anybody else to get anybody else's feedback, it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
It leads to more well-rounded things when people can say what they like or what they don't like or what they would change. Also, you don't have to do what other people say.
Right.
If they don't like it, but you like what you did, go with that. It shows in the final thing, the final writing, the final piece of art, the final creation for D&D. It shows if you like what you've made. So
yeah.
that's kind of my advice. And again, if you write, you don't have to write every day. If you draw, you don't have to draw every day. If you make stuff for D&D, you might have to make stuff for D&D every day. I'm sorry, but
right.
No, you don't. And most people don't. I'm just kind of weird.
Right. Yeah, I think part of it too is finding community. And finding people that are there, that are willing to listen, see what you've got going on, share their own and stuff like that.
It's not all your close friends. It's not all your family members. There are people out there that you haven't met yet. Libraries, gaming conventions, just online forums.
Yep. Yeah. For us authors out there, little writing groups, even if they're just online gaming groups. Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of people who play role-playing games and board games and stuff who aren't other creatives, but they have ideas that you can use, or they can give you feedback, or what would be cool is this, and you go, maybe.
Yeah, it would be. Yep. Well, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. The floor is yours again, and just wrap it up and tell us once again where we can find you and what you're working on and all that kind of stuff. So it is the time is yours, sir.
Sure. Once again, I'm Nathan, or mostly online known as the Amethyst Dragon. I create Dungeons and Dragons game content multiple times a week, and I've written a book for the game table that is nearly 600 pages long, filled with everything and stuff some people haven't seen yet because it's only in the book. I just kickstarted that recently. You can still make a late pledge for a little while yet to get the book when it comes out, when it is first sent to people in early 2025. amethystdragon.com/book for that. Amethyst Dragon, there's a dash in there between Amethyst and Dragon. Amethyst-dragon.com is the list of everything, including a link to the book, a link to all my socials. If you have any questions whatsoever, I've got my own Discord server, Twitter, Blue Sky, I'm on there. All those links are on there. And really, yeah, I turn anything and everything into stuff for D&D.
That's good. That's good. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up for us. Folks, thank you for tuning in and spending some time with us tonight. Special thanks to Nathan for being a great sport and wonderful guest. Highly encourage you to check out all of his work. The links for all the things are in the description of the video, YouTube, and Rumble. Also on the calendar on mirthquake.show. So if you would be interested in being part of the Mirthquake community and a guest on the show, it's easy. Head over to mirthquake.show for all the details. Hopefully soon we'll be prying your brain open and throwing it on the internet for everyone to see, just like we did with you, Nathan. And thank you, sir. That was epic. Really appreciate it. And especially just a little stroll down memory lane for some of this great D&D stuff. It's so nice to see it still just going on with a vibrant community. So kudos to you for keeping that going on a 4-year-old game. Yeah. All right. And you need to get to work because tomorrow night you got 4 or 5 hours of gaming to do.
Let's see. What are they doing? I don't remember.
Oh, no.
I'll have to look at my notes, which are about 95% no context quotes from the players.
Oh, that's excellent.
Every week. I've actually put together a book last summer that was 50 pages. Just quotes with no context.
Oh, perfect.
From either the players or their characters. It doesn't say which with each quote. And I'm probably going to do it again because I've got another more than a year's worth of quotes and notes.
If there's anything that we've learned about you is that you are having a joyous time with all this, and it's really, honestly, it's just lovely to see. It really is. Yeah. So thank you everyone for hanging out with us, and thank you, Nathan. Hang out for just a minute and I'll see you in the green room right afterwards. And appreciate the watching and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, if you need anything in terms of links for Nathan or to be a guest on the show, mirthquake.show is where you can go. All the stuff is there. That's how you get to all the things. So once again, thank you and have a good evening. I'll see you.